Welcome once again back to the lab. It is your old Professor Pilk, and of course today we need to talk about the incoming raids for both Iron Leaves and Walking Wake. Now, I am going to start off with Walking Wake, even though I know Iron Leaves is here on screen. Just going to do something really silly here for a moment. So when we're specifically talking about builds for Walking Wake, you actually can use Iron Leaves for that raid. Just for silliness, I really wanted to build this out. Now, remember, you can do either raid. You will natively have one raid, Walking Wake for my Scarlet players and Iron Leaves for the Violet players. But if you go into the Poke Portal and go into your raids in there, people will be hosting all kinds of raids all weekend. So it's going to be really easy to obtain both of those units. So you don't really have to worry about having both versions of the game, which is actually quite nice. So, specifically talking about the Walking Wake raid, if you happen to have Iron Leaves from the old raid or you get Iron Leaves before this, obviously we're going to cover him in a little bit. I probably should have covered him first, but I already have the builds for Walking Wake. So we're going to do this first, and then later tonight we'll talk a little bit more about Iron Leaves so you guys are ready for those raids when they pop up here shortly. Now, the Iron Leaves build for the Walking Wake raid is actually really funny. So he is a physical unit, so we really do want to use an Adamant Mint if you don't already have the preferred nature on him. I don't recollect I think it's just random natures he drops with that I don't remember, but either way, you can use an Adamant Mint and give him that nature, and you can use a Grass Tera. You can use a Stellar Tera if you want, but I don't think there's any major benefit to it. I think a Grass Tera will do just fine for this event. Ability is always going to be Quark Drive. It's not going to change anything. Now, for items, you want to have a Shell Bell. In fact, most of these, with rare exception, you're going to pretty much use a Shell Bell on just about every raid we do. One thing that's not mentioned here, but is kind of a blanket across the board, you do want to have a level 100 Pokemon for basically all these builds we're going to talk about. Even though Iron Leaves is technically Walking Wake and Iron Leaves both are level 75 when you battle them, the honest answer is level 100 is not that difficult to achieve, at least at this point in the game. So, you're in post-game anyway. Just get there, give them candies, do whatever you got to do. Get them to level 100. You'll stand... it'll be like a breeze once you do that. Plus, when we do inevitably get 7-star raids back, hopefully, I'm going to guess that our legendary raids and things like that, when we do finally get the shinies and all that stuff, will probably be 7-star raids. So, you do want to be prepared for that, basically, already. So, get these mod up to level 100. Now, for the actual build here, specifically on Iron Leaves, I went all into HP and physical attack with my EVs. Now, if you need to know more about EV training and things like that, if this is your first time, I have a whole video on the channel about EV training. I'll put it in the description as well. Also, if you have any questions like that, we do always have the Discord available, so join the Discord, and we can help you guys out with builds and things like that there. Just, a great way to get started on all this. Now, for the actual moves that you want on Iron Leaves here, I went with Sword Stance because basically in an event like this, you do need to be buffing your Pokemon. If you're not buffing, you're really not fighting these Raidmon properly. So we put Sword Stance in there. You only need probably 2 Sword Stances. If you go all 3, you're not hurting yourself at all. It's just a great option out there. You can also include Electric Terrain in that build. That way, basically, it is going to buff the Quark Drive. So essentially with Sword Stance and Electric Terrain, you're going to be doing a crazy amount of damage. Now, I know that we have 2 moves here, Psychic and Grass, and the big reason for that is because the Grass move is going to be super effective. The Psychic move is boosted on Electric Terrain already, and with Quark Drive and all that, it's going to be a really hard-hitting move. So what you can do is if you don't have enough PP and Leaf Blade to get all the way through your fight, open up with Psyblade, do 2 or 3 of those until you can Terastalize, and then switch over to Leaf Blade. Because remember, prior to Terastalization, you still get stab boost on both of those hits. Once you get Terastalized, then you want to go all the way to Leaf Blade. Now, it is possible, honestly, to put a Stellar Tera on him and then to use both these interchangeably. I still would be willing to bet, though, that Leaf Blade is going to hit harder, even though Psyblade is boosted a little bit more. So, just options at your disposal here. Now, That's if you happen to have Iron Leaves. If you don't have Iron Leaves, we have quite a few other Pokemon here that you can work with. But continuing on with, even though I know it is Violet exclusive, most of us have kind of completed our dexes and things like that. Of course, we are going to continue on with Iron Hands. Now, obviously, I know that he is a Violet exclusive Pokemon, but if you check the Poke Portal, people will probably be sharing raids for this one. It's not that uncommon. And this is a really good Pokemon for much later raids. He's got a fighting type, he's got fighting and electric type, so he's good for anything that's really all of those are kind of designed for. And genuinely, he's got one of my favorite buff moves of all time. But before we get to that, this is another Pokemon where you want an Adamant Mint because he is a physical type. And once again, you want to put all your EVs in HP and attack. And he's got the same ability, Quark Drive. So, very similar build. Now, I did put an Electric Tera on him. I don't think there's any big benefit to giving him a Stellar Tera, so just an Electric Tera would be just fine. Once again, Shell Bell, because you do want to recoup your health on this one. This is not one where you can kind of mess with it and maybe do something else. You have to have Shell Bell because we're going to open up this fight with Belly Drum. And what Belly Drum does, if you don't already know, is it's going to buff your physical stat all in one move, but it costs you half of your HP. So basically, you open up with Belly Drum, and then you hit him with a Thunder Punch or a Supercell Slam. Now, what's going to happen is those are going to hit maximum damage. Like it's almost all the damage that he can possibly do, with the exception of if an electric terrain is in play. Now, you could drop an electric terrain, then Belly Drum, then go into these. But the honest answer is here, any combination of that. Like, you don't have to do the electric terrain. Honestly, just doing Belly Drum and then either Thunder Punch or Supercell Slam is going to just annihilate your opponent. Now, the reason I put two options on here is because I don't believe Supercell Slam is available outside of the DLC. So if you don't have the DLC, you probably don't have access to that TM. So these are just two general options that you can have for offensive moves. And of course, just because I guess I'm a glutton for punishment, if you are still looking for Mon to take from Violet over to this raid, you knew it was coming. Miraidon. And I know, once again, it is the Scarlet raid. I get it, but most everyone's going to have access to these Pokemon, and if you don't, once again, you need these to trade to complete your decks anyway. So join the Discord and trade with people. I'm sure there's people out there that would love to trade with you in order to complete their decks. So you get an extra Miraidon, swap it for someone's Miraidon, and the Discord's a great place to do that. So Miraidon's build, this is not a physical mon, this is a special attacking mon, so we went with a modest mint. Once again, an Electric Tera, because you do need super effective moves. And the nice part about having Miraidon here is he's got Hadron Engine. And Hadron Engine essentially is like Quark Drive, but ultimately does instantly put down an electric terrain. So you don't have to have electric terrain in your build. Because of that, we have some other moves that you can utilize. Now, once again, item Shell Bell. And as you can see, for our IVs, we went HP and special attack this time instead of physical attack. All these are going to be very common stats. You'll see a lot of these builds are going to be very similar. Now, move-wise, I went with Metal Sound because in his case, you want to debuff your opponent. Now, the way that Walking Wake works is essentially halfway through the fight, he's going to put up a shield. And then at that point, you won't be able to do any more status moves. So you lower the stats early on, and you can either one-shot him or just take him down as much as you can. But after he puts shields up, you won't be able to use Metal Sound anymore. You can't use status moves at that point. So both Metal Sound and Thunder Wave are kind of off the table at that point. So you need to hit him with those very early on and then give yourself some opportunities to do some buffing. Now, the nice part is status moves that still affect you, i.e. Calm Mind, you could still do. So you can open up with Metal Sound 2 or 3 times, hit him with a Thunder Wave to kind of stun him to maybe stop him from doing some attacks, then Calm Mind up, and then just finish the game with Electro Drift. So essentially, you can almost do Metal Sound 2 or 3 times, hit him with Electro Drift a few times. If you need to stun him, you can hit him with Thunder Wave. Then once he's kind of taken down to the point at which he's got his shield, then you Calm Mind up and hit him with another Electro Drift or 2, and you'll wipe him out. He will fall quick. This is going to be a really, really, really fast run. Now, yes, I know. We need to talk about some mon that you can actually achieve in Scarlet, and of course, One of my personal favorites, Appletun. I adore Appletun. You can get Appletun in Scarlet and Violet, any version of it. He's out there and pretty easy to achieve. I don't think you need the DLC. I know he's really easy to achieve in the DLC, but we have another one we're going to talk about in that regard. But Appletun should be quite achievable in the base level of the game, no matter what. Really simple build here. Once again, we're going Modest Mint on this one. I went Special Defense because his Special Defense stat is pretty low, but I'll be honest, you could still go HP on him and be just fine. Either way, just make sure you have everything in Special Attack and either HP or Special Defense. I just went Special Defense with this particular build. Now, I like a Stellar Tera for this guy, but it does leave... It closes one gap and opens up a new one. And you could either go with a Grass Tera or a Stellar Tera on him, but you need one of the two. The kind of plus and the give and the take here is that Walking Wake has Hydro Steam, Dragon Pulse, Noble Roar, and Flamethrower in his repertoire. Do bear that in mind because that is going to change things quite a bit. Also, he's got Sunny Day that he'll do at given periods, but I don't specifically remember when he does it. I think there's like one right at the beginning of the fight, which will help your grass Pokemon quite a bit. But Hydro Steam, basically any Grassmon's going to brush that off, right? It's not going to be that big of a deal. Dragon Pulse shouldn't be a weakness if he has a Grass Tera, but with a Stellar Tera, you do retain the Dragon weakness. However, Flamethrower is no longer 2 times super effective if you have the Stellar Tera because you build in a little bit of resistance with the Dragon typing. So there's a give and take here. Neither one of those answers are necessarily like great or one above the other. But the honest answer here is either one of those Terras, either Grass or Stellar will work. I just kind of went with Stellar with him a long time ago when we first got the Stellar Terra types. Plus, overall, I think it just gives you more options. Now, doesn't matter the ability. I will say if you can get him with Thick Fat, it'll help out a lot with the Flamethrower. But it really won't matter because he's going to be producing so much damage. You're going to be able to basically heal your way out of it. And I know you're looking at the item going, but I thought you said Shell Bell. Not this time. For Appletun, you want Metronome. Here's how this is going to work. Number 1, open up with Apple Acid. Hit him with Apple Acid 3, maybe 4 times. Because what Apple Acid is going to do is lower that special defense. Once that special defense is low enough, hit him with Giga Drain. In fact, if you can hit him with 6 Apple Acids and then just Giga Drain to success, you're going to wipe him out like crazy. Basically, by the point he puts up his shield and you can no longer affect his stats, basically with Apple Acid in play, he's going to be down to like maybe 10% health by the time he puts up his shield. So then you just Giga Drain to success. Nice part about Metronome is the more times you do a move, the stronger it gets. By the 6th Giga Drain, if you even get that far, you're going to be at 200% damage. Way better than any other stat boost out there. So Apple Acid 3, maybe 4 times. 6 if you really feel like going crazy. And then Giga Drain your way to success. That's all the moves you need. And kind of in that same vein, Hydrapple. I adore Hydrapple. Now, in fairness, you can only get the stuff to upgrade this Pokemon if you have the DLC, but in the base game, you could still like trade for him or whatnot. So you should still be usable, even if you don't have the DLC in game. You should still be able to trade for him. So, same basic idea. Grass Tera or Stellar Tera with a Modest Mint, any ability with Metronome, with the same EVs, but this time instead of Apple Acid, we're using Nasty Plot. Now, I really wish this Pokemon had access to Apple Acid. Unfortunately, he doesn't, but Nasty Plot all the way up, and then Giga Drain to success. If anything, this is actually easier than Appletun, but not everyone has the DLC, so I wanted to leave something else on the table. And I'll be honest with you, these 2 builds are probably going to be the most successful builds in this raid against Walking Wake. These Pokemon are going to laugh at him. But once again, you want to have these guys, hyper trained all the way up. You want to have their EVs trained up, so make sure you guys check out the video on all that. And you do want them level 100. But once you do that, these are an absolute breeze. Nasty Plot 2, maybe 3 times if you really feel like going crazy. Giga Drain to success. Simple, clean, elegant, and very effective. Now, for another really effective mon, although once again from the DLC, we've got to include Ogerpon. We've got to include Ogerpon at some point. Now, with Ogerpon, and you will notice the EVs go physical attack but special defense. That's because Walking Wake is a special attacking Pokemon, and her special defense isn't great. Her HP isn't terribly great either, but with the Shell Bell and with the Defiant ability, you will absolutely rock this. So number one, once again, we went Adamant Mint. I personally went with the Stellar Tera on her because she can actually change up her typing based on what mask she's wearing. Some of you guys are going to ask why I'm not using the water mask, and that was honestly the temptation. But the problem is, number one, that opens up a weakness. But number two, Ivy Cudgel becomes a water move, not a grass move, and we need it to be a grass move. So, Stellar Tera on Ogerpon, great combination. Adamant Mint, Defiant ability, and Shell Bell. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to open up with Leech Seed. That basically just ensures that you get enough healing, because she's a little low here throughout the match. You're going to get plenty of healing. Swords Dance up 3 times, drop a Grassy Terrain, and then Iron Cudgel to success. Now, in fairness, Walking Wake does reset stats, but I think it's at like 25% health or something like that. If you've Swords Danced all the way up, or Belly Drummed or whatever, if you've got your attacking stat at top marks, you're going to be basically like 2-3 hits to success. It's going to be the easiest thing in the world. And the whole reason we're using Shell Bell is to heal up. The only reason we didn't use Shell Bell on the prior runs is because we're using Giga Drain as our main attack, so we're using a healing move as our attack. So it is what it is. But Shell Bell here will be highly successful in healing you, and Ivy Cudgel is a really hard-hitting hit. In fact, if I recollect, I think it also has a high crit rate, so you will be wiping your opponent out. Now, some of you might want a Pokemon that you can build that will do both of the raids. I have a build in mind. It's definitely not my favorite, but it is a complete possibility. And of course, that brings me to Galvantula. And now I only just realized that Galvantula has some of the wrong information on this, so I apologize. We'll correct that here in a moment. I do, and I'll put the correct ones in the Discord as well. Once again, Modest Mint and a Stellar Tera. I like Stellar Tera on this, and if you want one mon to take on both raids, a Stellar Tera is a great choice there. Otherwise, you're going to have to be changing Tera types, and it's going to kind of suck. So a Stellar Tera on Galvantula. Now, Garvantula's ability you want is Compound Eyes. He does not have access to Hadron Engine. I know it says that there. Somehow the wrong information's on there. I'll have to go fix that. But Compound Eyes ability will allow you to basically take advantage of everything Galvantula is going to have at his disposal. Item, Shell Bell. Now, this kind of here would insinuate that it's an electric dragon. This is actually a bug electric Pokemon. So what we're looking at down here, and that's the reason we're going with a Stellar Tera, is because you want to be able to take advantage of all of those attacks. And remember, unlike in regular battles, a Stellar Tera will boost every attack, basically like it was terastallized every single time. I know it doesn't do that outside of battle, but raid battles are a special exception to that. So, with the item Shell Bell, we're going to be able to heal no matter what we're doing. You can use Charge Beam as your one kind of buffing attack. Now, Charge Beam only has a 70% chance to buff your stat, or special attack stat, but with Charge Beam 4 or 5 times, you should have 3, minimum 2, but at least probably 3 or 4 marks up on your special attack stat. So once you've got 3 or 4 marks up on your special attack stat, you can kind of go in. Now, Thunder Wave, once again, that whole thing is just to kind of paralyze your opponent and give you more options to do what you need to do. Plus, it also guarantees that you will be faster than your opponent. Now, here's where the big caveat lies. If you're going up against Walking Wake, I would use Thunderbolt as your main DPS. That will very much allow you to produce the kind of damage you need. However, if you want to be successful against Iron Leaves, use Bug Buzz. And literally the same build will allow you to do both of those for both raids. Now, it's not the best mon, but it's a nice little Swiss Army knife that you can use in either battle. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you have any favorite raid builds that maybe I missed out on? I obviously avoided some of the more popular ones. I included my favorites here, and if you guys want more, maybe we'll do more coming up here when the raid actually drops. Let me know in the comments as always, and I will catch you on the next one.